All right, let's get right into this because we have a lot of crucial ground to cover today. If you are prepping for the Cambridge AS Level Afrikaans exam, specifically paper 8679, and you are staring down the human relationships topic area, we're talking specifically about the status of the elderly and the generation gap, you are exactly where you need to be. Consider this session your elite, strategic masterclass. We are not just going to casually review what to study, we are going to completely deconstruct how this exam actually works at a structural level. I'm going to teach you how to dissect complex questions, how to master your time allocation, and exactly how to think like the people grading your paper so you can lock in those top-tier marks. We're looking at high-tariff questions today, the ones worth 9 to 15 marks, and to beat them, you need a flawless strategy.
Look at this quote from the Principal Examiner Reports. Most students lose easy marks on this topic. It's harsh, but it's true. But after this explainer, you absolutely will not be one of them. This isn't just some motivational pep talk. I have dug deep into the actual official examiner reports provided by Cambridge. We are taking their direct feedback to reveal exactly what examiners are desperately searching for in your essays and where thousands of highly intelligent students go completely off the rails every single year. We are reverse engineering the exam, and a huge part of that comes down to command word anatomy. I see students completely gloss over the difference between analyze and evaluate, or explain and to what extent. If a question asks you to evaluate the impact of the generation gap and you just explain what the generation gap is, you've already capped your score at a medium band, no matter how beautiful your Afrikaans vocabulary is. Today, we fix that.
Here is our rigorous, time-blocked, structural blueprint for this session. 1. The examiner's hidden lens. 2. Core cognitive domains. 3. The technical methodology. 4. Top 3 exam traps. And 5. The method mark lifeline. Let's not waste any time. Let's jump straight into Phase 1.
Section 1. The examiner's hidden lens. Looking beyond the surface of the paper.
To really dominate this paper, you have to accept one fundamental truth. Cambridge exams are essentially a highly structured game, and you have to know the rules to win. The absolute golden rule is that the assessment framework strictly prioritizes analytical depth over superficial breadth. What does that mean for you? It means throwing a massive brain dump of random facts onto your exam paper simply will not work. Examiners do not want a generic, rambling list of broad statements about how older people struggle with smartphones or how teenagers are rebellious. They don't care. They want structured, logical, laser-focused reasoning. In my coaching groups, I always see two specific types of scholars. Let's call them Alex and Sam. Alex is highly technical, obsessed with memorizing facts and formulas, but totally freezes up on open-ended evaluation. Sam is the creative thinker, incredibly strong at formulating passionate arguments, but struggles massively with structural precision and timing. When Alex and Sam tackle a question about the elderly, Alex just lists 20 statistics about aging populations, while Sam writes a sprawling, beautiful, but totally unstructured essay about family love. Both of them lose marks. Why? Because they lack analytical depth. You need to take just one or two complex ideas about the generation gap and relentlessly deconstruct them.
Section 2. Core cognitive domains. What the syllabus is actually testing you on.
When it comes to human relationships and the status of the elderly in this syllabus, it's not just about your Afrikaans language proficiency. Obviously, you need good grammar, but this is fundamentally about how your brain processes complex social information. Cambridge targets 3 distinct cognitive domains, often referred to as assessment objectives. AO1 is knowledge and understanding, AO2 is analysis, and AO3 is evaluation. You cannot just coast on knowing basic facts about elder care or family dynamics. That's just AO1. To unlock the top-tier marking bands, you must actively demonstrate competence across all 3 of these domains simultaneously. You have to know the realities of the generation gap, which is your knowledge. You have to break those realities apart to see how they work, which is your analysis. And then, crucially, you must critically judge their impact, which is your evaluation. If you miss even one of these, your grade plummets.
So how do we actually prove mastery of those 3 domains on paper? First, you rely on precise definitions. Define what you mean by the generation gap in the specific context of the prompt. Second, identify clear causal relationships. This is huge. Don't just say, grandparents and teenagers don't get along. Explain exactly why that friction exists. Is it a clash of traditional Afrikaans values versus modern globalized media? State the cause and then link it to the effect. And third, integrate cross-topic connections. This is the secret weapon. The principal examiner reports consistently shout from the rooftops that candidates who reference cross-topic connections achieve significantly higher marks. Imagine you're writing about the isolation of the elderly. If you can seamlessly link that to economic changes, maybe how the modern cost of living forces both parents to work, leaving no one at home to care for the grandparents, you are suddenly showing the examiner a deeply connected, conceptual understanding of the syllabus. You are showing them you see the whole board, not just one piece.
Section 3. The technical methodology. Deconstruct, solve, and evaluate.
Now we're getting into the real mechanics. If you've ever opened your exam booklet, read a massive, complex text regarding human relationships, and felt your heart rate spike, this is your procedural blueprint. This is how we take the emotion out of it and process the exam like a machine. But real quick, before we solve this, I want to hit pause. If you are serious about unlocking these top-tier grades, you need consistent, high-level strategy. So right now, hit that subscribe button for Ace the Exam's IGSE O and A levels at acetheexam_IGSE. Turn on all notifications so you never miss our weekly Cambridge breakthrough strategies. Do it now because the algorithm won't always show you what you actually need to pass. Okay, back to the blueprint. We use a rigorous 5-step sequence. Step 1, identify the given information. Literally highlight the constraints of the prompt. Step 2, break the argument into logical steps. Isolate the specific claims the text makes about the elderly or the youth. Step 3, solve systematically. This is where you apply your syllabus principles and structure your paragraphs. Step 4, check reasonableness. Ask yourself, does my analysis actually make logical sense in the real world? Step 5, make justified recommendations. This is your AO3 evaluation. I want you to picture my two scholars, Alex and Sam, sitting in a digital study suite right now drafting a response. They usually hit a massive roadblock right around step 3. Sam wants to just write a giant block of text, and Alex gets bogged down trying to translate complex formulas into Afrikaans. The trick to getting unstuck? Force your brain through these 5 steps, one by one. It creates a perfect scaffold for your essay.
Let's look at paragraph linking and comparative analysis, because a huge chunk of this topic involves comparing generations. If your strategy is simply pointing out similarities, saying both the youth and the elderly want respect, and you use basic comparative connectives, congratulations, you've just earned baseline marks. You're passing, but you're not excelling. If you take the next step and highlight the differences, supporting every single claim with specific evidence from the text provided, now you are pushing into advanced marks. But the absolute holy grail? Synthesis. This is where you draw relative conclusions. You don't just say they are different. You evaluate how those differences impact society. You might write something like, while both generations seek respect, the youth demand it through autonomy, whereas the elderly expect it through tradition, creating an inevitable friction that can only be resolved through active community integration. That is synthesis. That is top-tier evaluation. That is how you get an A star.
I want to run a quick interactive workshop with you right now. Imagine a complex data chart pops up on your exam paper showing a massive increase in elderly isolation over the last 10 years. The clock is ticking. You have 60 seconds to process it. Go. What do? Most students panic and just start rewriting the numbers into their essay. In 2010 it was this, in 2020 it was that. No, stop. Look at the cognitive breakdown required here. Extracting the data from texts and tables is only 30% of the skill. Interpreting the relationships, noticing that as urbanization goes up, elderly integration goes down, that's another 30%. But drawing evidence-based conclusions, that is 40% of the battle. You must tell the examiner what the data means. Why does this shift matter to the Afrikaans-speaking community? What are the cultural implications? Always move past the numbers and into the narrative.
Section 4. Top 3 exam traps, straight from the principal examiner reports.
All right, focus up because we are entering the minefield. These are the top 3 traps that completely destroy otherwise brilliant papers. Trap 1, confusing cause and effect. We'll deep dive into this in a second. Trap 2, forgetting format and presentation. You would not believe how many students write a stunning, highly analytical response, but completely ignore the fact that the prompt asks for a formal letter or an article format. The examiner is forced to deduct marks. It is literally throwing points out the window. And trap 3, answers lacking specific context. This happens when you write a generic answer about old people that you memorize from a textbook, completely failing to anchor your arguments in the specific Afrikaans text provided in the exam. If the text is about a rural farming community in South Africa, and you are writing about high-tech retirement homes in Europe, you are not answering the question. Context is everything.
Let's do a spot the flaw exercise with trap number 1. I see this exact mistake all the time. A student writes, "The elderly are lonely because teenagers use too much technology." That is a classic confusion of cause and effect. It's a mediocre answer. It assumes technology is the direct primary cause of loneliness. Now let's step in, pause, and rewrite that flawed section out loud to make it flawless. A top-tier full-mark response would say, "The rapid integration of digital communication has marginalized the elderly, who lack digital literacy. Consequently, The youth's reliance on these platforms inadvertently isolates the older generation, shifting the traditional dynamic of shared physical spaces. Do you see the difference? We accurately identified the precise causal relationship. We didn't blame teenagers, we analyzed a structural shift in communication. That is the exact cognitive strategy you need to deploy when you get stuck. Break it down to the root cause.
And that level of thinking brings us to the absolute pinnacle of critical analysis. True evaluation requires identifying limitations, assumptions, and alternative interpretations. When you are reading a source text about the generation gap, put your examiner hat on. Ask yourself, what is the limitation of the author's viewpoint? What assumptions are they making about modern families? Is there an alternative way to interpret this behavior? Maybe the youth aren't being disrespectful. Maybe they are just communicating under immense modern academic pressure. Acknowledging these nuances, weighing different sides of the argument before making your final judgment, proves to the examiner that you are engaging with the material at the highest possible academic level.
Section 5. The Method Mark Lifeline. How to save your grade when everything goes wrong.
Listen to me very carefully. You will hit a moment in the exam where you hit a wall. You'll read a question, the clock will be ticking, and your mind will just go blank. You'll feel like you don't know the perfect answer. When that happens, this is your ultimate lifeline. The examiner reports literally beg for this. Students lose marks by not showing working. Even if your final answer is wrong, method marks can save you. Now, in a language and essay-based subject like Afrikaans, showing your working means displaying clear, logical steps. It means applying the correct formatting, using appropriate academic terminology, and structuring your paragraphs transparently. Examiners reward the process. If your logic is sound, if you show a clear attempt to deconstruct the text using the methods we discussed, you will bank critical method marks, even if your ultimate conclusion slightly misses the mark. Never ever just leave a blank space or skip a hard question. Structure your thought process on the page and force the examiner to give you points.
To synthesize this entire masterclass, I want you to remember 3 core pillars. First, the 3-step question scan. Highlight the command word, identify the content, note the format constraint. Second, the paragraph balance formula. Claim, evidence, analysis, synthesis. And third, the last 5 minutes review checklist. Check your formatting and verify your context. So I leave you with this final provocative question. Are you just memorizing facts, or are you truly ready to evaluate them? Because memorization is the enemy of evaluation. Crushing Cambridge exams requires consistent, relentless strategy. You need to deconstruct, analyze, and critically judge. Now, I need you to take action. Hit the subscribe button for Ace the Exam's IGCSE O&A levels at acetheexam_IGCSE right now. Turn on that notification bell so you get our next exam hack the second it drops. And go down to the comments right now and type out your exact target grade for this paper. Put it out there, commit to it, and then use these strategies to go get it. I will see you in the next explainer.